No, look, I'm relieved that it's passed. I mean, I was, to be honest about it, I was more hopeful at the end of last week that it would pass. But then I was coming back this week after the weekend's pronouncements by Donald Trump. But yeah, no, it passed 334 votes, 324 with 11 abstentions. So it does show that every vote matters, even though people say, sure, what power does an MEP have if there's 720 of them? It does show that on issues like this and on the nature restoration law, which was in the last mandate, but was also very tight, every vote matters. I'm relieved that it's been that it's going to be looked at by the European Court, because it does contain some measures that are at least make me very uncomfortable. The fact that national parliament's been bypassed, the fact that there's this sort of balancing measure in it where if either side brings in legislation that might impact the exports of another, it could be challenged. So, for example, there's a possibility, at least it seems to me, there's a possibility that if the European Union was to introduce higher food standards, around perhaps animal additives, growth promoters, etc., that's something that might be able to be challenged. I don't know, but I'd like the court to rule on this definitively. There were many people, I suppose, in advance of this who warned, and I mean, in my group meeting there were dire warnings. I know in the EPP group, which Fine Gael is in, there was a huge amount of pressure applied by the leadership of that group to its members to vote against transferring it. There were dire warnings in my own group that if this was transferred, it would delay the implementation of the Mercosur trade agreement, and that some of the countries of the Mercosur countries would walk away. I don't think that's the case, unfortunately. I mean, I think this Mercosur agreement as it stands is a betrayal of farmers. It's a betrayal of what they've been asked to do for the 20, 30, 40 years now by the European Union, the direction they've been asked to go in, massive investments they've made in going in that direction, to just now turn around and say, listen lads, none of that matters, we need to flog a few German cars. Equally, I don't think that access to Mercosur markets on a much lower tariff basis is going to be as pivotal to the European industry as is portrayed. So if this agreement is delayed, it's not a bad thing for me. If it was scrapped completely, it would be a better thing for me. But I think it is important to get clarification from the court on some of the issues that are included in it.
And that is the, I suppose, crux of it, is that it's just clarification from the court, because although we are hearing whispers that the deal could be delayed now for at least 2 years, that is, if I'm correct, if the European Court of Justice reviews this and finds a problem with it. If they don't, is it again full steam ahead to the MEP's vote?
Well, firstly, there are rumours circulating that EPP are going to try to introduce some kind of a provisional, or that von der Leyen will try and introduce some provisional, that the deal would apply provisionally pending the decision of the court. But I mean, if the court come back and find that parts of it are illegal, well, are contrary to European Union law or the treaties, well then, there would have to be a substantial renegotiation of it, because the Parliament and the Council couldn't pass a piece of legislation that the court had said was unlawful. So I mean, but if the court said it wasn't unlawful and that there was nothing contrary to the treaties in it, which I think is a possibility, then it would come back to Parliament to ratify. For the avoidance of any doubt, as I said, I think the deal marks the betrayal of European farmers, the direction we've gone in terms of agriculture and the environment, in terms of agriculture and food safety, in terms of consumer protection, and I am implacably opposed to it. I mean, I would like to see a deal concluded with South America, but it can't include agricultural goods in circumstances where the conditions under which they are produced is so different, and the standards are so different. And I mean, we've all sorts of measures in the European Union to discourage the destruction of the rainforest. There's a deforestation piece of legislation that was passed in the last mandate, and at the same time now we're going to introduce a measure that's going to incentivise the destruction of the rainforest. And I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.